Good afternoon, good morning, welcome everyone. This is the Hacking HR May series, and today we are here to talk about mental health, navigating the challenges of work and parenthood. My name is Jill Katz. I am the founder and Chief Candor, Courage, and Care Officer at Assemble. We are an organization that does leadership development. We deliver offsites, learning programs, and fractional HR. And I am so excited to be here with you today on a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. Shortly after Mother's Day, which I was lucky enough to celebrate, I am personally the mom of two teenagers. I have a daughter who is 17 and a son who is 14. So parental mental health is a topic I certainly know a lot about and look forward to talking with you today. So welcome. I would love to hear who has joined us today. So please, let's jump into the chat. Let me know where you are coming in from. So come on in. Let me know where you're here from. I'm looking in the chat to see if I see any comments. And I would love to see who has joined us here today. Right now, I'm not seeing any comments, but we'll see. Aha, here we go. We've got someone coming in from Istanbul. Welcome from Istanbul. Who else do we have here today? Ethiopia. Good afternoon, good evening, Ethiopia. Idaho. Amazing. Good to see you. We'll take a couple more. All right, well, they're coming in. It's good to see everybody. What we're going to do now is bring in our panel. We've got a great group of panelists today, and I'm really excited to introduce you to these amazing people that are going to talk with us today. And I have a really fun way that we're going to get to know our panelists. But first, we're just going to start off by name and what you do, and I'm going to pass it first to Chrisana.
Hi, yeah, very happy to be here. My name is Chrisana Wallace, and I am joining from the Boston, Massachusetts area. I am a director of people and culture for a really small software startup in the sustainability tech space, but have been kind of doing that startup HR, get your feet off the ground for many different companies of all different sizes. So thank you for the warm welcome.
Thank you, Chrisana. Welcome. Emanuela, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me here. I'm Emanuela Bowman. I'm an HR advisor with Pacific Community Ventures, supporting minority small business owners. I'm also an executive coach, trauma coach, author, and proud mom of one. I'm super excited to be here. I'm very passionate about human-centered leadership and finding that transformational sweet spot of organizational success and employee thriving. So thank you again for having me here today.
Happy to have you. Thank you so much. Welcome, Jen.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm actually calling in from Boston as well. So I am the Senior Director of People and Talent at a company called Roofer. They're a roofing platform that helps roofers basically to do all of the kind of admin back work so they can get back on the roof. And I have been in kind of the people and talent space for the last 15 years, helping companies to grow and scale. And I am a proud mom of two.
Amazing. Raji, welcome.
Hi, very glad to be here. Looks like a very bubbly panel, and we're going to have fun the next 1 hour, I'm sure. I'm Raji Ramanan, and I'm the founder principal of Strategic Solutions. We are an organization that helps multiple types of organizations. Specifically, we work a lot on healthcare, in healthcare industry. And we do some executive leadership coaching, organizational development, organizational effectiveness, and leadership development work. And very glad to be here. I am a proud mother of 3 and even more proud grandmother of 2. So calling from the West Coast, California, very happy to be in this chat panel session.
Welcome, Raji. That's wonderful. And Cindy, welcome. Cindy, welcome. Can you hear me? I'm hoping that Cindy can hear me. Cindy, can you hear me? I'm not sure if she can. I'm going to give her a wave. Cindy, can you hear me? I think she might be frozen right now. So we'll give her a moment and hopefully she will come unfrozen and have the opportunity to introduce herself. In the meantime, we've got people here from Ghana, North Carolina, Canada, India, Vietnam, Istanbul. We've got people from all over the globe. So it is really exciting to have such a great team of people joining us today for a very important conversation. And for those of you that are in our audience today, we would like this to be as participatory as possible. So if you have things you'd like to say or things you'd like to ask, go ahead and throw them in the chat. And I'll do the best I can to toggle back and forth between the members of our panel and our chat. I'm going to give another shout out to Cindy just to see if she's able to hear me now. Cindy, are you here? Are you able to hear me? All right. Well, we'll get to Cindy hopefully sometime soon. But in the meantime, we are going to start off with a game, because who doesn't like a game, right? This is what I like to call the speed round. So what we're going to do with the speed round is I'm going to, it looks like Cindy is back, and it looks like Cindy may have a different computer. Cindy, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you guys. So sorry about that. My computer, for whatever reason, decided that this morning it was not going to cooperate, so I had to connect from my phone. So I do apologize for that. And I believe the intro was, what do you do, where are you from, and how many kiddos you have. And so, again, my name is Cindy. I am been doing HR for 20 some years. I am currently an HR manager, and I have 1 kiddo of my own, and I am a bonus mom to 3 other kiddos.
Wonderful. Welcome, Cindy. I'm glad that we were able to get you up and running, because we definitely want to hear from you today as well. So this is terrific. Welcome, everybody. And we are going to jump right into our little game so we can get to know each of you a little bit better. So I am going to call out names and we're going to go speedy. The question is coffee or tea, and what do you put in it? Jen?
Tea, and I drink it almost all day, iced or hot, and it is completely black.
Okay, Raji, coffee or tea?
Usually tea, and I have it all the way with the cream and sugar substitute and some spice. Usually I have masala chai.
Okay. Ooh, nice. Okay. I'm going to take one more. Cindy, are you coffee or tea, and what do you put in it?
I do both. So first just coffee, then I go with tea for the rest of the day. And
Okay. Ooh,
and
sorry.
I do the coffee. I have to do it with sugar. I cannot do it black. But what is it called? The tea, the rest of it will be something along the lines of either chamomile with lavender, to kind of also help with the zen for the rest of the day.
All right. Let's hear from our participants. Are we more of a coffee or a tea group? Just curious. Throw it in the chat there. What do we like? So far in our panel, we are a tea panel with some coffee. I know that I would vote big time for coffee. I am okay, Chrisana is coffee. I'm coffee all day, all the time. We'll see what our audience says. In the meantime, my next question is mountains or ocean? Mountains or ocean? Chrisana?
Definitely mountains.
Mountains.
Yep.
Okay, Emanuela, mountains or ocean?
Oceans all day. Put me on a beach.
Okay, Jen, mountains or ocean?
Mountains all the way. I want to see a vista and go hiking.
All right, Raji, mountains or ocean?
I am very greedy. I'm both. And my favorite vacation spot is Rio, where I can see the mountains and the ocean. For that reason, that's my favorite spot.
Oh, love it. Cindy, mountains or ocean?
I'm gonna go with Rashi, both.
All right. And we've got a lot going on here in our chat. We've got, I'm happy to say, a lot of coffee votes. We've got some latte. We do have a tea. We've got a masala tea. And now we've got mountains and oceans at a nice clip also. Okay, so everyone keep up with us. Definitely want to hear in the chat how you feel. My next question to the panel is a very important question, and it's how you're going to decide if we're good friends or not. The question is cats or dogs? Cats or dogs? Cindy.
Cat.
Raji.
Dogs. We have 3.
Woo! Jen.
I like both, but I have none.
Okay, we'll take it. Emanuela, cats or dogs?
I like both and have had both.
All right, come on, audience. I need your help. Chrisana, cats or dogs?
Well, I have both. I am definitely a cat person because what's better than being able to put out a little bit of food and water and go away for the weekend and not worry about it.
Okay, I'm a very big dog person, and we've got some dog people and we've got some both people in our audience. But so far, more dog. Yay, more dog people, more dog people. All right, the last show that you binged. What is the last show you binged? Raji.
Book of Mormon, New York.
Okay, Book of Mormon. So a Broadway show.
Yep.
Great. What is the last show you binged, Emanuela?
Severance. I don't know if it's not, I don't know if you've heard of it, but like splitting your minds with work and life. I'm waiting for season 2.
I've heard really good things about that one. Okay, Cindy, last show you binged.
I cannot remember for the life of me, but I know it's something ninja.
Okay, I can't say I know what that one is. Jen, did you binge anything great lately?
I've been binging between 2 kind of polar opposites, so True Detective and Bridgerton.
Okay. Two great shows. We've got Lincoln Lawyer. We've got a good vote for Severance. Chrisana, anything?
I like trash TV, so Below Deck is definitely fun for me to feel like I can get away and pretend that I live on a yacht for a little while.
Excellent. I like some trash myself. Okay, here's a good one. This one tells us a lot about who we are. Who do you text the most often? Emanuela.
My husband. Errands, yeah.
Okay. Cindy, who do you text the most often?
I would say my husband as well.
Chrisana.
I'm not a big texter. Often people will be like, "Hey, are you alive?" Because I texted you 2 days ago. But probably my sister, outside of my husband, because we do text during the day too.
Jen, who do you text?
It's kind of a 3-way tie. I have my husband, my mom, and then also I have like 2 good friends, like HR friends that we are rapidly texting each other.
I have 2 very good HR friends that I'm also rapidly texting all day. Raji, who do you text the most?
The most is my daughter and son-in-law in a kind of like a group chat, because we're always talking about our toddlers' challenges and issues they need help with.
That's great. And we've got people texting their mom, their sister, their husbands, their cats. I'm assuming that's from the last question. And I will also say that we've got some votes for Real Housewives, Monk, Bridgerton, Silo, Titus Complex. So there's a few one. I've got my last question for our speed round. This is a tough one. What do you collect? what do you collect? Jen.
My husband would say I collect way too many plants. So I have lots of them just all over the house. So and one right here at my desk. So yeah.
Amazing. Beautiful. Thank you. Emanuela, what do you collect?
Pens. I just love stationery and pens.
Such a good thing to collect. Raji, what do you collect?
I collect a lot of curios. My kids make fun of me saying that our house is like a museum because I've lived in 17 countries. So there's a lot of, little knickknacks I've collected from wherever I have been. So yeah, curios.
Curios. Wonderful. Cindy, what do you collect?
I don't think I collect anything, but I do help my son collect cars.
Ooh, what kind of cars? Like Matchbox cars?
So like Hot Wheels, he's big on cars, dinosaurs, and sea animals and safari animals right now. But cars and has been definitely on the top of the list. So I can honestly say he probably has over 100 Hot Wheel cars.
Wow, that's amazing. That's quite a collection. Chrisana, what do you collect?
I'm not a huge collector of things, but if I see something free on the side of the road, I have a hard time leaving it there. So that's probably what I collect.
That's great. And our participants collect coins, stamps, books, travel memories, and someone says they like the ocean better than mountains. All right, well, welcome. It is so good to get to know this panel and the people who are joining us from all over the world as well. We're going to have a really good conversation today, and we've got such a warm group of people here, so I'm excited to talk with you. So today we're here to talk about the challenges of work and parenthood and how that affects our mental health. So my first question is, what are some common challenges and misperceptions surrounding mental health that parents face when trying to juggle the demands of their careers and their responsibilities as parents? Jen, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I mean, I have struggled with some of these misperceptions as well, just putting it on myself. But asking for help is kind of a sign of weakness. You can, I have felt personally like inadequate if I am an employee and a parent sometimes, and basically going to a kid's game is making me less committed to my job. And then also the last one that I'll just share that I have experienced and I'll also kind of had conversations around is always having to put on a good face and not showing that you're struggling.
Not showing that you're struggling. And so, Emanuela, what would you add to this answer, if anything?
Yeah, I would just add about the fear of being your whole self, right? Kind of going into work and partitioning a whole side of you and kind of coming in and just presenting as just an agent of the organization, right? And so there's this tension of what stories am I allowed to bring up? What from my personal life can I bring into this moment that might actually be relevant, but might make me seem less than? Especially with the double or triple plight of woman and minority, right? And so I think it is a misconception as we consider how work is evolving. And so, yeah, there are some real practical reasons of why this has been the way of being for a long time. But there are environments, there are cultures, there are places where you can show up as that whole person and not have to think about, okay, let me take off this hat and put on that hat. And I can be one.
That's great. We talk about sort of this way of being. I like the way that you phrase that, this way of being, because it is so normal and natural. And Cindy, you shared that you have a child of your own and that you're a bonus mom. I like it, that the word that you use there, bonus mom to additional children. What are we talking about when we say parental mental health? What is that in the first place?
So I think it's just simply being in a state of mind where you are okay with the challenges that come your way and you're able to handle the challenges that come your way. because mental health to every single one of us comes in different sizes and different colors and different shapes, right? What makes me happy isn't gonna make Jen happy, or it's very, very, very different across the board. And what triggers me is not going to trigger everybody else, right? So it's not a one size fits all. I definitely do think it's mental health would be um, best described as what makes you able to handle the challenges, overcome those challenges, and being okay with not being okay sometimes, and giving yourself the grace and the the um, the okay to say, you know what, today was a little bit rough. Tomorrow will be better, and not beating yourself up over the fact that perhaps you had a rough day.
Thank you. Raji, what are some signs that an employee may be struggling with mental health?
Well, having led teams and being in the role of, employee engagement and organizational culture, we always observe and try to figure out the pulse of the employees beyond what they communicate through employee engagement surveys and pulse surveys, right? It's way beyond that. And I have seen it firsthand working in healthcare during COVID. I have seen people actually bring trying to bring their authentic full self to work, but they are pulled into so many things. I've had nurses feel that, how am I going to go back to work, go back home today after working in the COVID unit? And I have felt that myself, because even though being in HR, I trained myself along with quite a few others in the organization as a sitter who assist a nurse so that we augment the nurse shortage during COVID. And we would serve in the units assisting nurses. We would do non-clinical work because we're not trained clinically. And being in the COVID units, and it is not easy to have the best of mental health when you're serving in a COVID unit and when you have to go back to your children and your family and you wonder what you're going to take back. So the COVID situation is different, but even otherwise, there's lot of parental moments that people have, and invariably it has been the women. We call it equal parenting and everything, but it's invariably the women. I hear my daughter all the time say, like, why is it that I have to have sleepless nights every night and have to go to work at sharp 8 o'clock in the morning in terms of joining a work call? So it becomes invariably the woman who is put in the, in the key position to manage these things and still maintain mental health. Coming to work, it's been a challenge, as this challenge has been for years. And I always console my daughter saying that, you have to understand, as mothers, we all go through this. It's being ready for motherhood in so many ways, and balancing work and motherhood is very big. So I would call it motherhood is very different from generic parenthood.
So there's definitely a disproportionate impact on women, as studies have shown. And you bring up, obviously, a magnificent point about the impact of COVID on people who have worked in the healthcare or other adjacent fields that impact people who've had to deal with serious healthcare situations and then go home and parent, which is tremendously stressful. Krisanna, I'm curious, what other signs might you notice for employees that are struggling with parental mental health issues, maybe outside of the healthcare arena?
Yeah, I think it can look like cameras always being off in a culture where we historically have them on, being late to meetings, or not contributing during meetings where otherwise they normally would. Work product lacking the quality that you'd expect from that person. I think those are all ways that this shows up. or, even just, in the more like blue collar industries, it's just like calling out randomly, right, with no warning. And I think that it's important for companies to break the stigma about returning to work after, so there's kind of two sides of the coin. Is one, like, we're all parents 24/7, right? But then there's that period of time when you just had a child or just adopted a child, and you are asked to, be thrown back into your work schedule. And I think it's important for companies to have empathy and build that into their culture, to understand that, it's one of the most difficult times for people to come back to work, those first few weeks or first few months after this big change in their life. And so as colleagues and as managers, we can ask each other, how are you doing? And when someone says, I'm good, you say, no, like, how are you doing? How has your return to work been? Don't just settle for the classic, I'm good, how are you? Really try to dig into it. And some people may be comfortable, being an open book, and others may not. It might take a few different tries to get down to the brass tacks of it all, but it's important for us to break that stigma and just be, humans, and connect with each other on how we're actually doing. And that's just not new parents either. It can be, if you notice any of these things, like I said, the cameras are off, people are late to meetings, they're not speaking up, check in, ask people how they're doing, and really mean it.
You bring up a really good point, Chrisana. I remember when I came back from my very first maternity leave, I was more depressed than I had ever been in my entire life. And I didn't recognize what was happening with me. And this was many, many years ago. My daughter is 17 now, which I cannot believe. And I really couldn't function very well. And not one person checked in with me. Not one person checked in with me. And I was crying in my office. Cindy, I see your hand up. Did you have a similar experience?
No, what I wanted to add as well is that it's not just your low performers, it's your very high achievers, your extra and beyond above those are also in that same scenario. Why? Because sometimes if they are feeling so low, they want to make sure that there's something that they're doing, that they're feeling that they're doing right. So your overachievers are also those that you need to be on the lookout for, not just your low performers when it comes down to mental health.
When it comes to mental health, it comes to everybody. It impacts all of us, because the one thing that separates mental health from people is human beings. All you need to be is a human being to experience mental health. And so, Chrisana, you started to talk about checking in, which is so unbelievably important. Emanuela, what are some other things that colleagues, managers can do to effectively support parents who may be struggling with mental health?
Yeah, I think that the checking in is that first step, but checking in is part of a foundation of a relationship, right? And so I love how Chrisana put it with care, that it's not a checklist. It's not about the manager going into the room and saying, okay, did I checklist? Okay, what? All right, something's up. Let me shoot you to HR. It's having this genuine, what can we do? How can we support? How can we rally together as a team in recognizing, once we've recognized that something is up, what other support can we have? And how can we think about our work differently in terms of flexibility that we're offering and prioritization? And how do we recognize when things need to shift, right? We're in this environment now where the pace of change is just continuing to increase. And so this paradigm of, that's the way we've always done it, this is the time the meeting always is, these are the people who are always there, it doesn't work anymore. And so how do we really recognize the unique nature of every person that's showing up in the role and what we might need for this conglomerate, this group working today?
That individualization, that absolute critical call for management by individual, and understanding the uniqueness of what each person brings and needs in the workplace. So you bring up a really important point, which is just send them to HR. Just send them to HR. And I think many people who are in the field, many practitioners, and it sounds like those of us who are on this panel today have some role in HR, whether we are HR practitioners or we are adjacent to or advisors of. We probably all get some kind of chuckle out of send them to HR. What is HR's role, Jen, in this particular situation?
Yeah, and I've thought a lot about this because there's some kind of boundaries to explore here. You know, what's an appropriate relationship between the employer and the employee when it comes to their mental health? I think the first part of it is just getting kind of that normalization of support for mental health. So, you know, I've seen in very, very supportive environments, people will actually block off their calendars and, you know, publicly show like they're going to therapy. People can talk about it in meetings and just say like, yeah, like I had, you know, this therapy appointment over here really helped me with, you know, X, Y, and Z. If they felt comfortable, you know, sharing that. It's really about kind of removing that stigma and helping to have a company and a culture that receives mental health support and kind of normalizes getting kind of that support. So that's the first part, is the normalization of it and really getting it to a level of comfort and a level of just trust. And then the other side of it is just thinking about what are the benefits offerings? Like, how are you actually signaling that you're supporting employees? Like, do you actually have, you know, expanded benefits offerings with your, you know, your health plan already? Are you, you know, offering additional tools like maybe like BetterHelp or Spill or maybe Talkspace as well? What are you doing to, you know, give employees options? Because there is a level of individualisticness to it, and one thing is going to work for someone, but it might not work for another person. So you need to have the employee almost like a marketing aspect of like knowing all of their options and knowing kind of who they can come to, and it's going to be a safe space for them.
Excellent. Those are such great suggestions. And Krisanna, can you add by letting us know how workplaces can design benefit plans that are effective in addressing parental mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it starts with the moment that the company is made aware that someone is going to need to go out on maternity or paternity leave. So, and like I said earlier, there's two sides of the coin, right? There's those times where you have a new life coming into yours, and then there's the times where you need that ongoing support for people who've been parents for years but still struggle with the flexibility. And so I think on that first point, it's making sure that you have the benefits plans in place and the culture in place to embrace parents in the workplace. So that can be employee resource groups that are just for parents to be able to share resources and talk to each other about what they're experiencing. It can be making sure that when someone's coming back from their leave, that they have a flexible return to work situation where the company is aware that, you know, they're not going to be back 5 days a week right away. They're going to have a different sort of schedule that they've worked out with their manager, and everyone knows that they need to respect that. It can be making sure that on those historically difficult times of the year, like summer break when the kids are home for school, or you know, winter break, you know, traditionally around in the US, like Christmas and New Year's, there's a long break for kids to be home. And so maybe that's your company's week of rest. And because, you know, as companies, we know we're not going to get a lot out of our employees during that time anyway. So why not, you know, take advantage of that and allow people to fully disconnect and be with their children so they can come back to work refreshed and ready to go.
So there are a lot of things that organizations can do and a lot of infrastructure that organizations can set up in terms of putting processes in place and HR playing a support role. Now let's spend a little bit of time talking about actual parents and what this experience can do to moms, dads, and caregivers who are raising children, because many of us have jobs during the day, and then parenting is a very, very different, fulfilling and stressful job in and of itself. So Raji, can you start off by telling us how can parents effectively manage their time and energy to avoid burnout while they are in the process of balancing parenthood and careerhood?
I can talk out of my recent experience. It's been a long time since I was a parent, but it's been only recent that I've been a grandparent. And I was sharing the responsibility of grandparenting with my daughter equally, if not more. It's almost like I was a partner in that, whole experience and support to her. And it requires a lot of planning, and a lot of adjustment in your life. My daughter always complains about, I don't have any friends. I'm not going out anywhere. It's just work and then my kids. That's all. And I keep reminding her, well, you're doing it as a parent. I'm doing it as a grandparent. All my friends are complaining that I not responding to their texts, or I'm not active in the WhatsApp group or in other social media. It's just work and then my grandkids. So what it means is there's a lot of planning you need to do, a lot of adjustment in your life, in your mental makeup, and in your shift of prioritization. And extremely important is organizing and planning ahead. In fact, you have to plan ahead even a month or 2 months, in terms of, I have this conference to go to, therefore, who's going to be there to support, the babysitting that I otherwise needed to do. Even 2 months ahead, 6 months ahead. I have planned 6 months ahead of how this will be done. So that would be my mantra. In terms of personal planning and extremely disciplined organizing, prioritizing, you have to do, and sometimes delegate, or sometimes forget about things. This is not important right now. My prioritization is this. And you might lose friends, you might lose your network a little bit, but you have to compromise. Recently, I saw one of the employees in an organization I support wrote a phenomenal email. And I'm saying it's phenomenal because I've never seen such a thing before in my entire 28 years of being in HR and being supportive in these situations to employees. This email was about how this person is recovering or recouping or rejuvenating from a cancer journey. And she's written to her manager and some of her key stakeholders in the organization saying that I just completed the process and I'm recouping, rejuvenating. She was off, obviously, she was in disability. And this is an email she wrote to everybody when she came back. And the essence of the email was outlining what her situation is and requesting accommodation, requesting empathy to her situation, and that she would do her best, but keeping in mind what is the current situation of her. I literally, one of the leaders shared this email with me, who I'm coaching, and said, Raji, how do I handle this? How do you want me to respond this? I've never seen this kind of a thing and I want to appropriately respond. So please coach me on this. Literally looking at that email, I had tears in my eyes for the only reason it takes a lot for somebody to share something as personal as that to a group of people, especially in organizations when still you're being judged what your health condition is, both physical health and mental health. I've seen succession planning conversations, which I hated to be part of in my years of experience, where people are talking about health. Oh, this person was recently diagnosed of diabetes. His energy level is going down. I don't think he can visit as many customers he visited. Conversation you wish you never were part of. So just want to leave that thought, how much we are aware of what it requires to be accommodative in a workplace for someone who's parenting or someone who's going through something themselves and returning to work.
Well, that brings up a really interesting question. And I think Cindy and Chrisana and Jen, you said that you are currently practitioners in-house. Did I get that right? So,
Yeah.
so Cindy, what would your recommendation be to someone who is experiencing severe or even moderate parental mental health issues, or someone who has a physical health issue, such as this person who is experiencing cancer recovery, which I wish the person the best. I hope that person is okay. Do you think it's a good idea for that person to share openly with their organization?
I think it is, and the reason why I say that I would recommend it is because in order for HR to pitch in, help out, um, provide resources, provide, some sort of guidance, and also be able to do accommodations, right? Because we also have to take into consideration that as a parent, we do have also those parents that need accommodations because of their children's health situations or potentially disabilities and things of that nature, right? And I speak from the autism side, as one of those, right? Because I am a parent of a little that is autistic, right? So we also, being open to that, we are able to provide accommodations, for those, when they're having those struggles, so if the company doesn't know, let's say for example that your kiddo is, has a condition where they get seizures, and sometimes you just have to run to the hospital in the middle of the night, and then, perhaps you've been, late a lot lately, and, there's been perhaps like a flare up or a spike in those situations. If they're not open enough to tell you, you know, you can put them on a performance improvement plan and things of that nature, which then aggravates and creates additional tension and additional problems to their mental health when they don't share, right? So, but in order to share, we need to make sure that we make it a safe environment for them to share, for them to feel welcome that they can share. I think transparency from both sides, is super key. I am open and I share about my experiences that I do have when it has come to mental health, and not just my mental health, but mental health of others that have been in my family that have experienced struggles. Because in order for employees to feel that they are welcome, they have to feel relatable to you, right? And so, lately we've had, a lot more employees come into the office and they're like, well, this is what I'm experiencing. I need help. Our benefits, they're charging me this much, let's say, for ABA therapy. And I thought it was free based on the plan that I have. And so just being able to share, oh, okay, you know what? I completely understand. This is the impression I was under too. This is where you need to go to. So I think us being transparent, making it a safe place, and, allowing for those additional accommodations, whether it's making it where we allow for their hours to be flexible, their start time to be flexible, or where we allow, random doctor's appointments or leaving early, just for every type of scenario, is super key. And again, it's not a one size fits all, right? It's just really fully understanding that individual situation, their home situation, their kiddo situation, and their personal situation is super key.
So many really, really salient points that you made there, Cindy. And what I really loved is using the word relatable, that as practitioners, as leaders in organizations, it is so okay. It is so absolutely fine for us to share about ourselves as well as we go through our day and deliver our practice and partnership, to share what we're experiencing, because as we become more human and more relatable to the people that we work with, the more transparent it feels to them and the more likely people are to open up. And that does create more psychological safety. So I really like that point. You bring up a point, Cindy, that some people may have additional things going on. They may need to be going to the hospital in the middle of the night, as you said, or they may have issues with their children and their families that cause more time commitment outside of work. And that may feel like it's impeding job advancement. So Jen, how do parents navigate the decision-making process when it comes to choosing between advancing your career and spending time as a parent, whether it's just being with your kids because you want to spend the extra time with your kids, or if it's not a choice because you have to be with your kids?
So I think there's kind of two kind of ways of thought here. So one part is kind of the question you brought up. It's like, do parents have to choose, just in general, on like being more with your child or advancing your career? And I think that is something that some parents can struggle with, and it really depends on the company that they're with. That may need them almost like a forcing function for them to choose. I'd love to open up a third option though here too, where companies actually, instead of thinking about kind of the amount of hours that a person is putting in, it's more about the impact that they have within the company. And that, yes, they might need flexible hours. They might need to, take a step away and maybe go to, visit, go to like a kid's soccer game, or go have to take a day off because their kid is in the hospital or their kid is sick, but also recognizing the value that parent actually brings to the table. And I will say from personal experience on like the mom side, juggling so many different things has gotten me to ruthlessly prioritize so that I can do things in a shorter period of time. So I make use of the amount of hours that I have. The side that I also want to bring up, and it kind of goes back to a few other points, but it was coaching, managers and leaders on their biases that are going to creep in if they're maybe not seeing a person, working as many hours as they are, and maybe they're not online at 8 p.m. at night. That doesn't mean that takes away from the impact of what they're doing. And or somebody coming back from cancer, or even needing to go out for a surgery as well. That doesn't mean that that's going to impact kind of what they've been doing at the company already, and their kind of value, I guess, that they have brought to the company previously that would impede them from advancement. So I think it's also on us as HR leaders to coach our managers and our leaders, and especially even our our CEOs and founders, to recognize that bias and kind of play that kind of check and balance on them. It's like, are you discounting them because they have to go do X? And so I think it's just, that's all I'll say on that.
I'm so compelled to say something to what just Jen mentioned, is that our career journey and parental journey is actually reversed. When you are so busy in your personal life, making your family and giving attention to your kids till the time they're teenagers and they leave the house, that is when your career is also at its peak. This is something, I don't know how many of you know the whole mix-up of this prioritization in life. So it is really, as parents, we are caught in the dilemma between where to focus. And one of the organizations I worked in, the leaders were very open to discussing this in more detail when it came to career discussions and succession planning discussions. And we kind of had an informal rule where the individual, to your point, Jen, will come to us and say, can you move me from a fast track to a medium or a slow track? I mean, just imagine you're in a highway with multiple lanes, and you are giving indication that you need to be moved to the slow lane. Otherwise, there were a lot of special projects being pushed to you and all that during times when you didn't have to do so much of balancing, So I think that would be a good way of looking at it. Have it as a norm or a culture that leaders follow. But also, it's a lot on the managers. I think HR cannot be dealing with parental challenges or work-life balance challenges of thousands of employees. We have to train the managers, and they need to take a call on what is the accommodation my team requires. Are they just coming back from a cancer treatment or something like that, coming back from having a baby? So I need to distribute work as a manager within my team. Like my rock star has been always doing 80% of the work all these years, but she just had a baby. We need to give her time, and therefore can the rest of the team share the little bit of extra work she was doing, because now she can only do the minimal, she has a challenge. I think that's what managers need to do.
Thank you, Raji. I think, what's really interesting is we could all go out and get t-shirts printed with Jen's trademark at the bottom that says measure impact, not hours. Jen, we'll make sure you get the royalty for that, because I think that is a wonderful third option, and absolutely how leaders, organizations should be looking at people today. And the thing is, there's so much going on for working parents and working caregivers. There is no working parent who, if you look under that rock, you see not much going on. There's just no such thing. And so my question, Emanuela, is how can parents focus on self-care?
Okay. This is great, because I'm going to lead into what I wanted to say on the last point. The first thing is this recognition that every human requires both a mother and a father in order to be born. And I really want to go back. I think it was Cindy who had talked about relatability, right? This is not just a problem, or a challenge rather, of the working mother. And so one thing I want to do is expand language. It's not just parenting, it's caregiving. We are caregivers in all different respects. And, it might be my sibling, maybe I don't have a child, but I'm caring for my mother, right? That's still a dynamic. And so expanding that to recognize that there are more people with this challenge than just the parent, the working mother, right? And in that then is requiring more from our partners. They should be feeling this burden at work too. I have had a lot of, I've had a fast track of success in my career. And a lot of that I had the support of my husband. I've gotten the call at Friday, you need to be in another country on Monday, and me turn around and say, how, babe, go do it. I've got this at home. Right. And so it's that dynamic of, if you are, in lucky enough and you're in that situation, both at home, even if not both at home, right, still requiring that your partners in co-parenting step up, not just in life, but at home. Okay, so I'll put that to the side. The other thing is directly to this question. I love the airline industry marker of putting your oxygen mask on first. You cannot help your child if you can't breathe. And so when we think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that first level of your physiological needs, are you eating? Are you sleeping? Are you breathing? Do you know how many times I've realized, oh shoot, I'm holding my breath right now. Like, how am I going to do all this if I'm not even breathing? And so, really looking at the science of mindfulness, meditation, ritual, there's studies that show that a 10 minutes of meditation can replace a 40-minute nap. So just thinking about that time differential, right? Whoa, 10 minutes now just got me this exponential energy boost, presence, rest, and deloading my mental load so that I can show up more fully. I can show up as myself. And that when I'm filling myself up, then that pours out to everyone else. I can be more effective with my children and at work with my friends when I'm doing well. And so honestly, there are tons of self-care strategies. You can YouTube ChatGPT for days, but really it starts with believing that this matters and making the decision to put yourself first and not feeling guilty about that, recognizing that putting you first and thriving is going to allow those others in your life to thrive as well.
Thank you so much, Emanuela. Such a good answer, and so important to expand this conversation to caregiving, because there are so many ways that people are caregivers. Pets, elderly, sick family members, children, neighbors. There's so many ways in which people are parenting in other language. So it's so important. And amazingly, we only have a minute or two left. So I am going to jump to our audience and say, if anyone has a burning question that you'd like to ask, throw it in the chat. And I'm going to come over to Krisanna to help us close out the loop and say, Krisanna, what are some strategies for parents to help be stronger in balancing work demands with the needs of parenthood that you can share with us as we go?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're in a position where you have maybe a more remote type of work schedule, or even if you're not remote and you're in the office and you have constant meetings, people knocking at your door. I mean, especially if anyone here on the call is in HR, you know that your day just gets interrupted left and right with all different sorts of things. Is similar to what Emanuela said about prioritizing your mental health. ChatGPT and YouTube can't tell you and do that for you. You have to do that. You have to set that as priority, and you have to guard it with your life. And so if you're going to tell yourself every other hour I'm taking 15 minutes to check my daycare cam, to see if I have any Snapchats from my sister who's watching my kid today. If you tell yourself that you're going to give yourself that 15 minutes every other hour, block it on your calendar. Don't let anyone book over it, and make sure that you actually take that time. Same thing with when you want to start and end your day. If this is something that I do religiously. If someone wants to book with me, a meeting at 5:30, sorry, my day is over. Even if I'm not doing anything but sitting on the couch and watching a cartoon with my daughter, that's important to me, and that's what I'm doing. So block your calendar in the morning and at night for when you don't want to be, bothered by coworkers on something. And then when you're struggling, be open with your manager, set expectations with them. Like Cindy was saying, it's important to tell your employer, to tell your manager when you're struggling, or even if you're not, if you just feel like, work is getting to be a little bit too cumbersome and you want to have a little bit more balance, be open about that with your manager and come to a good plan of action to make sure that they support you in what you need so that you can be more productive at work. Because at the end of the day, if you're taking care of yourself, you're going to be able, just like Emmanuel said, fill the cup. You're going to be able to spill over and give more to people than you would if you were just wearing yourself out. So take care of yourself first, and the rest should hopefully fall into place.
Grab that oxygen mask and put it on yourself before anyone else.
Yeah.
So today's biggest takeaways are: put on that oxygen mask so that you can take care of yourself before anyone else that you're caring for. And let's measure impact, not hours. Well, Jen, Raji, Cindy, Emanuela, Chrisana, I had so much fun talking to all of you, making friends with you, learning that we have a good split between coffee, tea, oceans, and mountains, but certainly learning from you as fellow mothers, practitioners, parents, caregivers. And to our amazing audience, thank you for being so participatory. We learned so much about you, and we learned about some new shows that we should all binge. If any of us can just make an hour in our day to do that. And so with that, I wish everyone good health, lots of happiness, and as much balance as you can bring into your life. Thank you so much for your time today. Have a great, great afternoon. Thanks, everyone.